I'm going to give you a breakdown of some of the latest things that are taking place geopolitically. China vows to defend Taiwan, South China Sea at any price. So this is taking place as they're seeing an increase in the civil unrest. This is not by accident, I don't believe. Attempt to separate Taiwan from China and Chinese armed forces will take resolute action, warns defense minister. We've also seen, by the way, a rise in Taiwan doing a number of drills, preparing for a, quote, Chinese invasion. China vowed it will never give up an inch of its territory, whether it's the self-ruled island of Taiwan it claims as its own or in the disputed waters of the South China Sea. So these lines in the sand are being drawn at this time. War with China, which is also the next headline that we're going to get into. The former head of the U.S. Army in Europe says there's a very strong likelihood of war with China in 15 years. Retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges said the U.S. will need to focus more attention on defending its interests in the Pacific. We've seen, of course, the rise in cooperation between Russia and China going all the way back to the 9/11 time period. The former commander of the U.S. Army in Europe warned Wednesday that it is likely that we're going to be at this point within the next 15 years, although it could be sooner. Maybe there are plans to push it off if and when it does occur, as I said before, in line with other statistics that we've seen of the solar cycle and major wars breaking out, or after major solar cycles, or after major sunspots. So that is new information to some of you, but we're going into a solar minimum, and it seems that we're in the preparatory phase. There's also, I think, a lot of people that are numbed out right now. There are periods in which people are a little bit more awake to what's going on. There are periods in which people are a little bit more apathetic. So, right now we're in kind of a quiet phase, as well as a quiet phase of the solar cycle. And as things ramp up past 2020, past the solar minimum, and as we get to the solar maximum of 2022, the beginning of it, around the same time period, they're expecting a couple stars to collide. Right around the same time period, we're seeing Elon Musk talk about his SpaceX Falcon projects going off to space. We ask ourselves, what the hell is that all about, right? They have some sort of off-world base like the space station. What's the real agenda there? So I would say that we are seeing a convergence of various events, going back to the article. Hodges was the U.S. Army commander in Europe from 2014 until last year. He says the U.S. commitment to NATO is unshakable. So we look now at another report. It seems that some of these reports get a little old. I'm not trying to bombard you, but we're trying to summarize a number of things here. We've seen an increase in news about NATO, even going back to the Obama administration, increasing their efforts, some say aggression towards Russia. And so we are taking a look at this at this time. Mock battle in Norway will send clear message to any potential adversary, Transatlantic Security Alliance says. Now, of course, this is coming on the heels of the recent statement from Trump about pulling out of the nuclear agreement signed in 1987 between Gorbachev and Reagan, coming on the heels of Putin saying that the days of the U.S. empire are over. About 50,000 soldiers from 31 countries comprising NATO's 29 member states, plus Sweden and Finland, are taking part in a mock battle against an invading force in Norway, beginning on Wednesday and scheduled to run until November 7th. Yemen officials say, in other news, that Saudi airstrike has just killed 19 civilians, and stories like this are far more regular than what I would consider to be, it's not a sane society that thinks that it's evolved beyond a certain degree with these types of atrocities. I am not here to say that I completely, here's my cat back here, understand every little micro issue in every single country, but the things that are taking place, especially in Yemen, and a lot of innocent people there, causes one to really question the greater collaboration between nation states, as regions like Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen are basically destabilized without any of the superstate nations or any of the European nations, or anyone for that matter, being in any position to challenge what's taking place. And so this has not really been given the proper amount of time. And why specifically there is this Saudi Arabian Donald Trump connection, why it doesn't alarm some people that support Trump but don't like the Saudis, especially the religion of Islam. When you look at some of the most extreme versions of Islam, we're looking at Saudi Arabia. So why is there a disconnect? Why is there a disconnect? A gift to foreign spies, Donald Trump roasted over unsecured iPhone report. He's continuing to use some sort of a personal iPhone, despite warnings that's being tapped by the Russian and Chinese security services. So obviously a lot of things are going on in the news. I think that a lot of things that are taking place are not an accident. You know, there's this accidental version of reality, which is the false reality, that these wars are accidental, and that people see, for example, our politicians, for example, currently Trump, going to other countries. And so there is the visual depiction of peace coming and handshakes and agreement. But we've seen this for years and years. Meanwhile, these bigger than life weapons are being developed, not to mention Russia's Satan II missile. And the masses aren't alarmed by this type of deception that's taking place on a larger level. So these are things I'm bringing to your awareness.